It's the cry of generation. It's a stirring in our soul. It's dreams still in focus. It's hope still whole. For children that are and those who will be, our destiny is justice for once, for all, forever. Let it be. No more delays, denials can ignore our voices, nor suppress our choices. We come for all that God has gave, unashamed descendants of the indigenous immigrants and the once enslaved. For children that are and all those who will be, our destiny is justice for once, for all, forever, let it be. Liberation when we read, love when we lead, moving at the speed of student needs, pushing against the abundance of oppressive greed. For children that are and all those who will be, our destiny is justice for once, for all, forever, let it be. So we are here with the legend that is Debbi Blair-Minter, and it is an honor to just sit across from you as we talk about justice. And it is in your DNA to fight for justice. Mm-hmm. So tell folks what that means when I say it's in your DNA. Introduce yourself and some of that DNA.
Okay. Justice. It is the thing that kind of motivates all of us. The last name is Blair, and it's well known in the city and county of Denver. Growing up as the daughter of Omar and Geraldine Blair, there were high expectations, always. Parents who were definitely really dedicated to having a solid family, being a part of the community. They had lived through World War II, so they had some issues that just said you have to be better than what people expect you to be.
Yeah. And that helped you become the person who's done that for many generations in the city. All the places you led at, do you want to tell them?
All right. So, working for DPS, I started at Skinner and then moved to Hamilton, and they were both junior highs at that time. And I did things that I was on committees in the buildings and an advocate for kids. 80 to 85, I went and worked for Dr. Abby Dennis, who would later on become superintendent of Denver Public Schools, but she was always my boss and still is.
First African-American female.
First African-American female to be superintendent, absolutely. And from Hamilton to central office, I was at Montbello in its early days when we were slightly surprised by the number of students who showed up on day one as the bright, shiny new penny opened, and more kids than we were expecting were there. But I had a chance to work with those kids.
You've worked in every public school space, from traditional schools, charter schools, some innovation work. You worked in central office. So you have seen this continuum of education from almost every angle, right? A mom, as a grandmother, right? As a professional. And when you think about some of the injustices that you see, the injustices that dad and mom had to fight during their time, let's come up to like the 90s, right?
Okay.
Let's come up to the 90s. What was going on then in that? Where were you at in 95?
Okay, so I've left Denver Public Schools I left DPS in 1994. And went out to Douglas County, which was an interesting place to be for 7 years. As the only black administrator at Highlands Ranch High School, with a student population of 32 minority kids of any color.
Not 32%.
Not 32%. 32.
Yes.
32.
Yeah.
And had some interesting experiences there as an administrator leading. The most profound for me was having my life threatened by one of the kids. A student who I had previously done all of his schedules, been an advocate for him with his parents. I went into a classroom to do an observation. And in the observation, we had a no hat rule. And he had on his baseball cap. And so I said, would you hand me the baseball cap? And he was resistant. I said, come on, give me the baseball cap. I wrote his initials in it. I took it with me when I left the classroom and said, see me after school, I'll give it back to you. there wouldn't have been any problem. The teacher, who's now, after the class is over, cleaning up the classroom, sees a message written on the desk. That nigger, Mrs. Blair, will die. And she said, I need to show you something. I said, okay. So I go up to the classroom, she shows it to me. I said, I can't deal with this. This is me as the victim in this. The late Glenn Lydon, who was a former DPS administrator, was my colleague. And Glenn led the investigation, and ultimately we went through the expulsion hearing and so forth. But the community came out in
this
support.
Is 1994.
95.
Yeah. Sorry, but I say that in context to help people understand that we're not talking 1955.
Oh, no.
This is 1995, that we have a black administrator in a school that's predominantly white, and you are having your life threatened, and these racist words, these racially charged words are being used, and here you are trying to serve kids.
Right. Yeah. And the student body supported me.
Yeah.
And my only conversation with the young man when we had our expulsion hearing was why. I had been an advocate for you, so I don't understand why. Yeah. And he said, you took my baseball hat, and I didn't want you to have it. So I should lose my life because I took your baseball cap?
Right. Have you seen, in your journey from there to now, because you left High Direct, you said for 7 years you were there.
I was there. I left in 2001.
Then came back.
And I worked for College Summit, so I did college access work with Denver schools and suburban schools for 4 years. Yeah. And then made a journey into corporate America for 2 years and said, I'm miserable. Yeah. And then I got that phone call from the late John Smith, who was the president of the charter board at Omar D. Blair, who said, he actually was talking to my mother, and he said, where is she? Yeah. What is she doing? Yeah. And we need her. And as they say, that's kind of the open door to the next part of the story.
Yeah, so then you get into a big part of the story that you didn't jump into the charter world. They name a school after your father.
They named the school for him the day after he died.
Yeah, the day after he died.
Yes.
They named the school after him. You then get into this charter world. Omar D. Blair is, I think, if not the oldest charter school. I don't know if there's one. I can't remember the one. There might be one older.
There's a couple more that are older.
But I think Omar D. It's been around for a while.
20 years.
20 years. And so it's a very early in this education movement that we're seeing charter schools. Right? The one unique thing that Omar D. Blair had, I think, with you was like here it was in the Green Valley Ranch community. And it never really, even though in the name it says Omar D. Blair Charter School, by the community it was never really received as this weird thing. It was more like it felt like the community school, right? It felt like the neighborhood school, right? And 800 plus kids that were going to the school on a regular basis. And how did you navigate that, coming from the traditional world to now here you are in this charter world? How did you navigate those politics at that time of being kind of the first to market?
It was an interesting time having the DPS board that the school has obligations to, the charter board of Omar D. Blair that we have obligations to, Edison Schools, Edison Learning, its various iterations, but that leadership that I had an obligation to. But more importantly, I had an obligation to the parents and the kids, because some of those parents were my former students from Montbello High School. And so their kids were now my kids. And wanting to be sure that I did the best job taking care of those kids was extremely important to me.
Yeah, and I will, be very transparent to say one of the cool things that I share with you is that all 4 of my 5 kids all went to Omar D. Blair under Debbi Blair-Minter. And I say the kids that are the most successful right now, spent the most time with Debbi Blair-Minter. Like they still, Nathan and Savannah, and even Caleb to a certain degree, they say like, we learned not to play because of Debbi Blair-Minter and the value of education. I think when you talk about your parents and them instilling that in you, you've instilled that in generations because of your commitment to. And I think this for me, when I think about you, justice is students having people in front of them who believe in them. And I don't believe that I ever saw you not believe in a student. Why do you think that's not common, though? Why do you think that we still have situations where kids are in maybe buildings and classrooms where they don't have that Debbi Blair-Minter belief in them?
I think you have to instill that in your staff.
Okay.
That's one of the foundations, is making sure that the staff understand that your expectations are you're going to take care of those kids. And we were fortunate at Blair because so many of the staff members, their kids were enrolled in our school.
Yeah.
And so they could see it from the inside out, warts and all,
Yeah.
and they knew we were trying to do our very best for them.
But you were committed, I think you warts and all, but you say you were committed to justice as a leader. I mean, why? I mean, why was that so important to you? I mean, because it's sometimes you're very humble, right? And sometimes I don't think you brag on yourself enough because it's not as common as I think we would hope it would be. What makes a leader like you, and how do we just clone you so we can get these justice-minded leaders? Like, what does it take? I mean, was it the prep program that you went through in college? Was it? We definitely know the influence of your parents, but what needs to be fixed so that we have more leaders who are justice-minded and understand that it is their job not to fail students?
Good question. Good question. I think I look back on some of the people who supported me. I had Regis Groff as a teacher. I had Rachel B. Knoll as friend, mentor, and ultimately a board member in another situation. Evie Dennis, certainly. Jim Ward, I worked for him. I worked for people who didn't take any crap.
Okay, yes, sorry, say it.
You know, they said you need to take care of the kids. They are the most important. If a kid is off task, it's your obligation to bring him back around. You know, we were trying to be sure that when we opened Montbello High School, that those kids knew it wasn't just the bright, shiny penny in 1980.
Yeah.
It was people had, in some cases, lost their jobs trying to get this building open.
And of course, you went through one opening of Montbello High School, and now you're around for the second reopening of Montbello High School. And I remember you saying at a recent event when we were there, you challenged the room about this not being another shiny penny, but we had to get the results.
Absolutely, because there are critics out there who are waiting. You've spent $135 million, and they don't expect it to be successful. They are saying the kids won't be committed, the staff is not committed, the leadership is not committed. I challenge them because I believe that Nisa Lynch, who is the principal, and her administrative team want more than anything for that school to be successful, for those test scores to be exemplary when results are reported next spring.
You were on that campus as it was going through some of its tumultuous times. The one thing that you get when you become a legend is they call you in for all the emergencies. So you were on that campus after some upheaval that happened in the community where Rachel B. Knoll was moved out of the Rachel B. Knoll building and then moved into the Montbello building. They brought you in to help navigate through that storm. When it was Rachel B. Knoll, arts, right?
Right, we were Knoll Community Arts, and I ran the high school portion, and colleague Rhonda Jewett ran the middle school portion.
What did you see? Now, we knew the injustices that were going on in the farm communities. We have talked about that for decades. Here, those injustices now were concentrated in this space, and what was still failing kids? Like, because there was great leadership there between you and Rhonda and other folks around your staff, but your kids there were still experiencing systemic injustices.
We had teachers who didn't believe that the kids could be successful. They were very good at making excuses. You know, oh, please don't, I'm not going to penalize Johnny or Jose or Kadeem or anyone else. I'm not going to penalize them because they had to work last night. They couldn't get their homework in. Okay, you give them one out, but you also work with them to make sure that they pass those classes.
Yes.
And there were, well, you know, they just can't do it. Damn it, they could do it.
Yes.
You just needed to hold their feet to the fire.
Justice is, I've learned this from Debbi Blair-Minter, justice is high expectation.
You
right?
have to.
And then appropriately scaffolding, right?
Mhm.
Not enabling, but appropriately scaffolding. And I think that is what I think leaders miss, is that it is an injustice for you to sit in front of a certain demographic of students and coddle them and baby them because you have deficit belief, right? You don't believe in them, and so you're like, oh.
And when you don't, the kids know.
Yeah.
And the very kid that you're saying you're giving an excuse to may actually be the kid that if you just pushed them a little bit harder, they would manage to they'd learn some time management skills.
Right.
They would understand that I've got to do this after school before I go to work, and when I get off work, I may have to put in another hour's worth of work before I go to bed.
Right.
But I've got to get it done.
Right. So you, again, have been a pioneer, like charter movement. Omar Debbi Blair, like I said, 20 years, thriving, which is a rarity, right, within the charter movement, because we've seen a lot open and close, right? But Omar Debbi Blair has been able to maintain, I will never say it has maintained the Debbi Blair excellence, right? But it has maintained a level of excellence for students for 20 years, because I do believe that this expectation of justice, of high expectations for kids, of scaffolding, of not only expecting for kids. When my kids were in school under Debbi Blair-Minter, as a parent, I felt like there was high expectations for me, right? I dare not be engaged and involved in the education of my kids. What do you think about parents today? Do we have enough Mama Blairs and Daddy Blairs still today that are instilling that into their kids? It says part of justice is whoever the parent or guardian is at home saying to that kid, you're going to go to school and you're going to be somebody. Do you think we have enough of that?
I think it's interesting that there are parents who will say, I want the best for my kid. I'm giving you the authority. I'm empowering you to hold them to high expectations, and I will do the same at home.
Yeah.
But we do have a group of parents who have decided the best way to manage life with their kids is to go along to get along. I will condone whatever misbehavior because it really wasn't that bad.
Right.
I will condone the fact that they didn't get their homework done.
Yeah.
And we'll see if we can't work out a time when they can get it done.
Yeah.
They can't be the best friend of their kid and expect them to turn out as the fully fledged leaders and young adults that we hope they will be.
Yeah, agreed. So again, you've worked in a district in so many capacities. We've heard some other folks who said in this chair who said part of justice is a safe learning environment. Mm-hmm. And we've been in very different environments across our careers that some have been safe, some have been like unsafe. Mm-hmm. And when I hear parents say that justice is a safe learning environment, how are we doing in your perspective? And this is your central office lens, this is your school building leader lens. Are our campuses, in your view, safe learning environments, and are we delivering on that to ensure justice for kids?
I think that some of them are. I've been fortunate that I led in buildings that I felt were safe. And I felt they were safe because my staff was committed, but I also felt that there were resources through the district and through DPD that if I needed support, they were a phone call away.
Yeah.
And that gave me a sense of calm and grace that I could deal with any situation.
Yeah.
Because I knew if I picked up the phone, I was going to get the results I needed.
Yeah.
When I was at Manual, 91 to 94, we were in the middle of the gang violence that was happening, and that tearing up that community and a lot of other communities around it.
Yeah.
And I was fortunate enough that I had a relationship with the gang unit. If I needed them, they came.
Yeah.
But I didn't cry wolf.
Right.
I didn't ask them to show up if I didn't really need them.
Right.
In my work in the far northeast, at Blair, at Knoll Community Arts, at Sims Fayola, I knew that if I needed support, the support was there.
Yeah.
My last 3 years, I was a project manager for shared campus management, and I got to see buildings around the district. And I know that we've got new buildings are much better equipped to take care of the panic needs, if you will, for our kids. Older buildings, we were still trying to retrofit everybody's building to make sure it was going to be safe.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I left with 10 campuses when I retired in 2021 that I was supervising, and about 25 principals that I supported.
Yeah.
So I got a lot of feedback
Let's see.
on safety and what it means. There wasn't a building I was in or a principal that I worked with who did not believe that their building and their kids deserved to be safe.
Right.
And that's a foundational level of justice, is making sure that when kids get to the building, they are safe. When they're in the building, that they are safe.
So
And when we say goodbye to them in the afternoon and send them home, we're still responsible
Right.
until they get home.
Right, right. So as we wrap, what would you do when we think about the time window what might you have done differently? And not maybe you personally, but what do you think we should have done differently in this system? You think of going back to, we've lived, I think, we've lived through all the transformations of traditionals. We go back to CDM, CSCs, all these different, we can throw all the acronyms, right? But what thing do you think we should be doing differently to ensure justice that we've just still not changed? Like, we keep doing this thing that we should stop doing, and we should now do this.
I think the Board of Education makes a mistake when they don't listen to their customer. The kids, their parents, the staff, the leaders. We have 7 individuals elected to a board, and some are willing to engage and get into buildings and walk around and see what's going on. And others are simply going to sit and read a report and make a decision. They don't know if you care about them if you don't come in and spend some time in the building.
Yes.
And it shouldn't be a gotcha.
Right.
It should be, I'm here because I hear some great things are going on at X school.
Right.
And I just wanted to see it.
For myself.
I want to see those kids. Those bright, shiny faces
Yes.
they will lift your spirit on your worst day.
So I hear Debbi Blair-Minter running for school board. That's what I just heard.
Nope.
No.
Nope. Debbi Blair-Minter does not live in the city and county of Denver.
Oh.
And
State rep.
Nope.
No,
Nope. One
Mr. Groff would be so happy.
elected member in the family
That's it?
is enough.
That's Look, I appreciate you. I appreciate you leading as you have, continuing to be a light and living justice, and inspiring the rest of us to take this baton and move forward with it. And many generations will know the legend Debbi Blair-Minter. So I appreciate
Well, thank you.
All right.
It's been a pleasure.
All right. Thank you for joining us this week on the Justice Cast. If you are moved and inspired by what you heard this week, we need you to do justice by doing 3 things. Number 1, like and share this episode with your friends and family and network. Number 2, sign and share the Do Justice Pledge. And 3, join us for an upcoming Do Justice action. You can find those listed on our website at www.faithbridgeco.org. That's www.faithbridgeco.org. Remember, the world we believe for is possible. Do justice.
Thank you to Debbi Blair-Minter for being our guest this week. Thank you to our funders and sponsors. Join us next week when Vernon sits down with CEO of Cross Purpose, Jason Jams.